Hi, guys. Welcome to the Mentoring Monday podcast. I'm your host, Kia. Again, we do this podcast every Monday at 1, and I'm so excited to be here because this is my first time. I'm a business management student here at BYU. This is my final year. I'm studying supply chain. And so I'm really excited about our guest who we have today, Becky Sampson. She is a self-employed life coach. And so we're going to learn so much from her today. I'm really, really excited. I want to go ahead and welcome Auntie Becky. I know it's maybe you shouldn't say Auntie, but we're from Hawaii, so we're just going to go with that today. I'll invite her in and we'll read a little bit about her bio and let her introduce herself. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is fun. It's fun to be on the other side.
I know. Usually you're where I am, so it's going to be kind of fun. I have big shoes to fill. If you give me a second, I can read your bio, and then I'll give you some time to introduce yourself as well. Growing up helping run a family-owned summer adventure camp in southern Utah, Becky Sampson has always had a knack for business. Having met people from all around the world and from all walks of life, she has come to appreciate the relationships she has built with people. Becky believes in always being a lifelong learner. After a lifetime of struggling with an eating disorder and up and down the scales, in 2009, Becky was introduced to a free community program where she got help with recovery. 14 months later, and with God's help, released 130 pounds and is maintaining that weight loss all these years later. Becky has been the host of hundreds of podcasts over the years, writes books, and is a life and business coach. In learning the value of structure and accountability with her weight loss journey, she now works with frustrated, overwhelmed entrepreneurs and business owners. She helps them to get the most important things done without getting stuck in their excuses. Wow.
Yes.
Great bio. What would you like to add to that? I feel like that's awesome, but if you have any thoughts, I'll let you go ahead.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Nikia, for having me on this podcast. It's fun to be on the other side because I'm so used to hosting. It's been a while, to be honest with you. It's been actually a while since I've told my story of things. And so, yeah, I grew up in San Francisco Bay Area. So if you know where the computers were invented, that's where I grew up. Right there in Sunnyvale. I went to high school and the same high school and junior high as Steve Jobs. But I always say to people that he's much older and very dead.
Yeah, yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I grew up in San Francisco Bay Area, and then my family owned a summer adventure camp in southern Utah.
Aww.
And so every summer of my life, my whole family would pack up and get in a van, and we would go out to southern Utah and sleep under the stars for 10 weeks out of the summer and meet kids from all over the world. And so it was really kind of a fun thing. And we also had a lot of kids that were quite wealthy, even though my family wasn't that healthy, or wealthy, I should say. But we were exposed to a lot of the pretty wealthy kids because they wanted to send their kids to adventure camp. And that's definitely what we did. So I think that really shaped my, my spark for business, but also adventure, because I'm an adventure freak.
Yeah. I feel like that's very true about your personality. Very happy, very full of life. So I could totally see that.
Yeah. And so much of my life also, I struggled with an eating disorder, which really struggled with self-esteem and issues with school, all kinds of things, barely made it through high school. And then after high school, ended up serving a mission in Idaho, Pocatello. And as I only had a week left of my mission, I get a phone call that my father passed away in a car accident.
Wow.
And that was really, really difficult for me because I was really close to my dad. He taught me a lot of my life lessons. But as we all know, that everything happens for a reason. I came back from my mission, and I was doing business management at the time before I left my mission in college, but came back, and my mom said to me, she goes, Becky, you're very artistic. You really should do graphics, like get in. My mom's a very artistic mom. Yeah. And I was like, graphics, that's too easy,
Yeah.
But I took her advice, thank goodness, and I got an associate, close to an associate in graphic design, marketing, and sales. So I went off to go work as a real estate agent in a real estate company where they hired me to do graphics and marketing for all of their
Wow. Yeah.
agents. And back then I was just learning how to do Photoshop. And so I would like, take all the wrinkles out of people, the agents, and then they'd come to me and be like, Becky, can you make that permanent? I'm like, well, just don't have any showings. Right.
Yeah. We're like, I got it on your end. That's awesome.
Yeah, totally. So yeah. So then I went on to be a real estate agent. And then all my friends dried up. I bought all their houses and stuff. And I got the opportunity to be a property manager at a very large apartment complex, off-campus, BYU off-campus housing. If anyone knows King Henry Apartments in Provo, I was managed there for 7.5 years. Now that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
You can only imagine.
Yeah. And so I learned a lot about management skills at that point. I learned a lot about business, numbers, strategic marketing. How do you market to students that don't have money? Yeah.
Right. All the important things.
Yeah. How do you keep people from killing themselves and their roommates? That was conflict resolution number 101.
Lots of skills there.
Yeah. And then kind of my life took a turn. I worked there for 7.5 years. And when I got into recovery for food addiction, that was when I really got this bug to go out and make a difference in the world and help other people make changes in their life. And to be honest with you, it was a really tough decision, but I walked away from a very stable job and to go start my own business in life coaching. And that was really difficult. And I'm not going to say being an entrepreneur, I started a TV show when I first got here on the island, specifically around entrepreneurship. And that is one thing. If you want to be an entrepreneur, just know that it takes some guts.
Yeah.
It takes being willing to keep going when life hits you. And when you have difficult times, it's like with anything in life, but that I had to kind of learn where my niche was. I thought I'd go into helping people with weight loss. And then it kind of morphed into, because of my background in graphic design and marketing, I started helping a lot of students. Not a lot of students, a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs start building and branding their businesses. And I started seeing that, there's a lot of people out there that have a hard time get going with their businesses. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I went with the life coaching and business. So
one thing can I say that I appreciate about your story is that it's all over the place, which I think a lot of us feel that. And I think there's a negative connotation with that of like, okay, I think I like this, but I'm not sure. So a lot of students, I think my age, and I guess we're all kind of on that same brink of like, do I want to start my own business? Am I going to get a job with someone else? Mm-hmm. Your story is a great example of doing both. Are you happy, I guess, would you say, with your decision to leave the stability, even though it was really scary? What are the benefits of, I guess, that switch for you?
I have always been a free spirit. I love working with people and I love working with organizations. I have always felt like I had something bigger in me to be able to go and do things. And so I've gone back and forth between, going and working in a job. Obviously, I worked with you guys with the Ho Kelly for the last year doing communications and marketing. There's benefits both ways, right? And you just have to kind of know who you are. And I like that you brought up the point that, look, when we're 20 years old, I had no idea that this was what my life was going to be like. Yeah. I didn't know that I actually didn't finish my education because I saw that ad for the graphic designer at the real estate company. And then one of the real estate agents saw the kind of work that I did as a graphics. And he's like, hey, let me pay for you to get your license. And why don't you come work for me?
Wow.
We don't know like what's going to lead to what.
Right.
And I didn't do well in school. I've always struggled in school. That's why it was easier for me to go to something that I excelled at. Right. Yeah. And now all these years later, I'm back in school getting my degree.
Full circle.
Like how important it is. Yeah. But yeah, to answer your question, there's benefits for if you're somebody that's a self-driven person, entrepreneurship is definitely for you. Yeah. But you can't do it without a team of people. You got to be willing to ask for the help. You can't be a master of all trades, which is what most entrepreneurs do. And it took me many years to realize that. Same thing with my weight. I couldn't lose my weight by myself. I had to get a team of people around me that are better at certain things than I am to teach me the strategic things that I needed to do to be successful. And that's, once I figured out that key, whether it's business or personal, that really took off my results to being able to lose my weight and also building my business.
Very cool. So what exactly does your personal brand offer? Like what, because I know you do a lot of different things. You have your hands in a lot of different pots. What are some of the things that Becky Sampson offers to the world, like some of your specific products and projects that you've been working on?
Well, what's interesting, I love that question because the last 2 months I have been absolutely, it's 18-hour days. I'm working on launching a business. Well, I've been doing it for years, but now it's really on a much larger scale. It's something called Biz Blitz, which something I realized, whether it's with weight or with other things in your life, we have a hard time getting things done. We live in our excuses all the time. Oh, I can't do this because of this. And I can't do that because, you know, this person's stopping me from doing it. Or I got busy with distractions, or I got a phone call. And so now I'm not doing my homework, right? Yeah. And that all comes down to boundaries. And so I realized that one of my superpowers, and this is in life, I think we all need to know what our superpowers are. But one of my superpowers is helping people get things done, like really get things done. And even when I was there in the Ho'okele department, right, I look for the problems that we have and what are the solutions? What are the things that I can bring to the table with my skill set that can motivate a team of people to do things and move forward? And this is actually right here, this podcast is something that I thought of is what a better way. I've had all these years of doing podcasts. What a better way to be able to create a platform where students can get this experience before they go into the career, because this is where the life is going, right? Like careers are going to this point is if you have experience in doing podcasts and doing video work. And I know that that's a big thing for you as well. You'd love to get into that. And it's natural. It comes natural for you.
Thanks. It's nice of you to say. I enjoy talking. I think that I just like to talk and I like to hear other people's stories. I think there's always so much to learn. So thanks again for being so willing to share. We're going to pick your brain a lot in the next 25 minutes or so, just trying to get all the information from you we can. I know that a lot of times it's hard to pick something to do because you want to do it perfectly, or there's like this perfectionistic idea that society kind of pushes you towards, like, okay, you're graduating, don't you have like the best job offer, and don't you know exactly what you want to do with your life? And so sometimes that's hard to move around or to, I guess, try to battle, to combat, because it's not real, but still sometimes we feel it. So what is one piece of advice you would give to a student, maybe in my situation, who's graduating soon, who wants to be artistic, but also knows the benefits of a stable profession? What is something that you wish maybe someone would have told you as you're right at this point?
Network, network, network.
Cool. Tell us about that. Why? That's sometimes scary to think about.
Well, it's interesting. I just did some pondering and writing about this very thing today, because I do writing every day. I do recovery writing, and it just allows me to process through some of my thoughts and feelings. Yeah. But I'm telling you, I think that networking is by far the biggest tool, if you learn how to network, and I was watching a show called Undercover Billionaire. I just finished the whole series in 2 weeks. But the reason why I watched it was for business, you know, little business nuggets, right? Because these guys are billionaires, you know, they know what they're doing. But the one guy said, he says, contacts turn into contracts. The only difference between contacts and contracts is an R. And the R stands for relationships. So if you can learn, even as a student, to start networking and getting to people, like if there's a career that you like, then go after that career and find somebody that's successful in it and interview them. That's exactly what this is. That's what this whole Mentoring Monday is about, is interview somebody in that field and get to know. For instance, I'll give you an example. When I was in my class last year at BYU Hawaii, we were supposed to do an informational interview. And I've always loved, I had dabbled into TV and I've done lots of radio. And so I reached out to someone in the field of media. And I reached out to him. I've actually tried taking his job 3 times through BYU TV. And I got a hold of him and I said, look, I really would like to interview you. He spent an hour with me on the phone. I was in the library. And I interviewed him, and at the very end, I realized, you know what? I don't want to do that. And the reason why is because it's a different culture that I don't want to be in. Even though I'm dabbling in it because I do TV and radio, I don't want to be a broadcaster. I don't want to be in, that just wasn't some of the things that he shared and the difficulties that he had, and some of the things I was like, okay. You know, that, but see, you don't know unless you make those contacts. But now I could pick up the phone if I needed something and call him, and we now have a relationship. And who knows what's going to spring from that. So networking is by far, and the first thing that by far one of the most important things that you can learn as a student. And this is the best place to network, because when I first had my first semester in fall 2019 here, I sat in a room with all of these students from all over the world. Well, guess what? Yeah. All of those students are going to end up being adults someday that are going to lead businesses and church organizations, and that are going to change the world in governments. That your networking is here. But then also using the alumni. This is another beautiful thing, is that there's alumni that are way further ahead than where you want to be, and they may be in the careers that you want. That's again the reason why the Mentoring Monday is and that's a warm lead. You don't have to call them and say, hey, you don't know who I am. You just call them and say, hey, I go to BYU Hawaii and I'm a student. And can I find out more about what you do? Because I want to see if I want to do that or not. Or do you know any opportunities? Who do you know that could give me an opportunity? And you never know then. And I always say, God can't drive a parked car, right? So you have to be in motion, making those connections so that God will direct you to exactly where he needs you. Apparently he needed me to work at a real estate company. And then he needed me to go back and work with all the students. I had 5,000 students that came through my apartments over those years. And I still have relationships with them, which then led me to love you guys, because it felt like I was just coming home, you know?
Yeah. It was so fun to have Becky here in our office. I don't know if you guys, I didn't mention this before, but we used to work in the same department before she moved on to other things. And so I can very much so say that it was fun to have you here. Like, you're very understanding, very helpful. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you.
You know, I really like what you mentioned about networking and how important that is, because a lot of our professors push us to do that, even though it's scary. Out of all of the people that you've asked to interview or to reach out to, how willing are they to give you their time? Or like, what specific things did you say or do that made them a little more willing to invest some time in you? What advice would you give for that specifically?
Okay, so for students, this is a great question, because let me tell you, my assignment was to do one informational interview. Now I'm 48 years old, so I'm an old fart, as I said, student. But I used that as a way to reach out to some very, very influential people and say, look, I'm a student. Use that student status as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this for an assignment, and I ended up doing 10 informational interviews.
Wow.
So I have some really great contacts. So as a student, you got to use what you can use, right? Utilize it.
Yeah.
So reach out to people and say, hey, because it's like when a child comes to the door and says, oh, I'm raising money for something. Will you buy my cookies? You may not need the cookies, but you're going to spend the time and the money and the resources to give them the money, right?
Yeah.
To do that, to help them out. So that would be number one. Secondly, build the relationship. I don't go in to, if you meet somebody, and I used to be scared of people that were very influential. Like I would sit there and talk. I'm like, oh, why should I spend time? Why would they spend time with me? But I always have to look at what's in it for them. I can't tell you how many interviews I've done on my podcasts and my radio shows. I've never had anybody say no. And some of these have been very, very influential people. And I always have to think, what's in it for them? Well, first of all, people like to tell their stories.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if I have a listenership or I don't. Or I do. They would take, it was amazing to me. They would take 2 hours, an hour in prep time and an hour in the show to come on. But it all comes down to everybody likes to be heard. And they like to tell their story. So I used to use my podcast as a way to network and get into building relationships with some of these people that are very influential and build that relationship, because when I do need something of substance from them, then I've already got that relationship. Oh yeah, Becky, what do you need? You know? So I would do that. I also like to leave when I meet with somebody. I like to leave them better than I found them. That's one of my mottos that I live by. Yeah. And so I always think, okay, what do they need? Do they need more contacts? Do they need some ideas in branding? Do they need some ideas in marketing? Or who do I know in my network that can help them get further in what they're doing? And every time I try to give people 1 or 2 different names out of my own network to help build their network, even if they didn't ask for it.
Yeah. So. Wow. Huge. I think both of those are huge gems to, like, I'm secretly taking notes too on the side here. I feel like there's just so much. I feel a little bit selfish almost asking questions for me, but I know that there's other students that can benefit that also feel these same things. Personally, I feel like I can relate to you because I like a lot of things, just a little bit. I feel like there's so many interests I have. So it's been hard to pick, but I think it's a relief understanding that you don't have to pick, and that if you just kind of keep walking, God can push you to one side or the other. And I know most of our listeners share our faith. So I would just wanted to touch on that a little bit. Maybe asking you about how your faith has changed or grown or developed as a result of your journey, and just in relationship to your career. How do those two go together for you?
Wow, that's a really, really good question.
A really broad one, but
no, but the thing that I love about that question is that I've had to learn, like you, because I have a lot of interests and I've gotten very distracted in what I do, and I've gone down a lot of different roads, and I've hit roadblock after roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and then something goes, right? Something works, and then I hit another roadblock, and I'm like, oh. So it's this massaging of my journey. But what I've learned, especially in the last couple of years, is that God really, when I surrender my will and what I think is the best for me, and I surrender it to God and stay connected to the higher power and be like, okay, God, like, where are you going to take me today? Who are you going to introduce me today? I call them God drops, right? When I meet someone, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was an amazing connection. I always give the credit back to God, always, because I said, God, that was you. I know that was you. There's actually on my refrigerator right here. It's like, I have this little thing looking up at the sky saying, God, I know that was you. And recognizing his hand in my journey and knowing that he's going to put the resources and the people in front of me that he needs to in order for me to fulfill his mission, not mine. And so staying close to the Spirit and being fluid and being able to allow yourself to be led. Allow yourself to be led by the Spirit and that to me has been a practice. It's been very difficult because I'm like, here's my goal. I'm going to go after it. I think I know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, it doesn't look anything like that. But it opened up other doors that I didn't even know were possible. So I'm now living my life to the best of my ability every single day in the present moment. Like I always say I'm done planning out my life, but I'm going to prepare myself for whatever comes my way so that I can pivot and so I can see the lesson in it. And one of my favorite quotes is fail faster so you can succeed quicker.
Cool.
Because like you said, we're afraid of perfectionism. Who cares? It's better to be done than perfect.
Right.
And I'm struggling with that. Actually, I've got an hour video presentation to do for my business. And I didn't do it last night. And of all people, like I'm usually not afraid of the camera, but I'm terrified. I'm like, okay, Becky, just get over it. It's better to be done than perfect. You don't have to be perfect this first go round, you know? Yeah. So just burst through that and stay present and do the next right step.
Oh, that's comforting. I think it's kind of a relief to realize you don't have to have all of it figured out and that there's someone above us that is handling all the pieces in the best way possible.
He's in the details.
I appreciate that thought and that comment. I love that it's on your fridge. I want to do that too now. I just need those reminders, like sticky notes everywhere, so they can remind me. One thing that you mentioned stuck out to me. Earlier you talked about understanding your superpower and recognizing what those are. And I think God really helps us to understand those things, and that can help us pick a career or maintain a career. What are ways that we can uncover our personal superpowers so that we can have better, I don't know, I guess be able to just kind of have more confidence in the things that we are hoping to achieve?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is a quote that kind of came to me about a year ago. And I know you probably have heard it, but if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. And you're probably not in the right position. Like that's such a huge thing. And it takes a lifetime to get to know who you are. Right. I mean, it doesn't matter what age. I mean, even at my age, I feel like I'm just barely beginning to uncover my superpowers. And I know exactly what I'm good at. And I know what I'm not good at. I know what brings me joy. And I know what brings me, I don't want to do that. And sometimes we have to do it, but sometimes we can find other people to do it for us. But the other resource that the Career Center has there at BYU Hawaii is the MBTI. Those are very expensive assessments. And I learned about them many, many years ago. So my first semester back at BYU Hawaii, that was one of our assignments. So I would definitely say, come in, spend the time with a career mentor, get that MBTI, because it not only tells you how you think and how you process things, it also tells you what kind of careers you'd be good at. And believe it or not, I come to think of it, I was in high school it must have been like my driver's ed class or something. I can't remember, but we took some test that told us what kind of career we'd be good at. Yeah. And do you know what mine came out as?
Is it a talk show host?
No, it's not amazing.
What is it?
But you can't trust it all. But it was one of those people that with those lights that go out there and direct
a traffic signaler. No, ma'am.
I was like, I guess I
direct job for you.
People. That's basically what I do, but I don't direct planes. So they missed it. You know what I mean? They just missed it.
Yeah.
But that just came to me. Actually, I direct people. I know how to manage and get people to do what they want to do.
Not with neon lights, but in other ways.
Yeah.
Is the MBTI the one? Is it not the 16 personalities? Is it, or it's just
no? That's another tool. You can use that as well. Yep. But the fact that the MBTI and there's people that are qualified there. Yep. You can go to mbti.byuh.edu. Thank you very much.
Cool.
You can come in and get the assessment. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to the students. So I was like all over that.
Yeah. Right.
when I got the opportunity. So use the resources that you have there. And there's a ton there in the Career Center.
I'm just kind of curious about, do you know your personality type from the 16 personalities? Is like similar to that one?
I don't know. When I was a teenager, I studied the color code.
Oh, I don't know that one.
The color code is, I'm a yellow, which means I like to have lots and lots of fun, but I'm a red, which means I direct. I'm very much a direct and a leader, but I've got the blue side of me that likes the details, right?
So you're every color.
I know. I'm kind of, well, I'm not really docile. Like, I think
that green or something.
The whites kind of are the type that, the peacemakers, right? I can be a peacemaker, but I'm more driven by leadership and purposes, but it's got to have fun, man. If it's not fun,
me and you are like in that way. Just like, no.
Yeah.
I was inspired by something that you talked about with the fellow that you interviewed when you talked about like pros and cons of his specific job. Can you go over, as we're wrapping up, I just want to hear some of those from you. Maybe like 2 highlights into like things that you do struggle with just with being a life and business coach overall.
You mean specifically on that interview?
Well, just for you, no, like in like kind of similarly to the way you asked him, for you, what in your profession are highlights and not so
much? I would say be open to the process of self-discovery. Okay, that's one thing that it's not going to come overnight. Like it's just a process of, gosh, do I like that or do I not like that? And does that bring me joy? And does it come easily for me? Because we are born, I truly believe, with certain gifts and abilities. I mean, different personalities, and some are great outgoing people, and the MBTI goes over, are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? And in some ways I'm an introvert, believe it or not. When I get in big crowds of people, I kind of like to stay to myself.
Oh yeah.
But it's, the more you understand yourself and the more you allow yourself to be who you are innately supposed to be, then I think it's easier for God to direct you into the fields of work that you do. But be mindful of all of that, be mindful of, do you have a lot of conflict in your life? Address that. Do you like to go and be out with big groups of people, or what energizes you? And some people are really energized by serving others, where other people are more energized in serving themselves, And so it's life experience, and no career is going to have every single thing that you love. But as I always say, find that wave and then catch that wave and ride it hard, and for me, I love working with people. I love seeing people start here and end up here. And probably the reason why I love that so much is because the transformation that I went through.
Right.
And I truly believe that people can change if they are willing to do the work. And it doesn't just apply to personal life, right? It applies to, I'm doing the best I can to take those same principles that I did in losing weight, and now putting that same structure into building my business and helping other people. Because I know the better I hone into my skills and abilities, the more I'm going to be able to propel other people into success. And confidence is what we all want, right? We all want to feel confident that we're in the right place, we're going in the right direction. And confidence is a byproduct of success. So if I can give people success, even a little bit of success, then they can ride that wave and get more and more and more success. That's what drives me. I love seeing other people happy and being in their passion, doing what they were meant to do, and being able to still manage those everyday things that we deal with life, and get unstuck so that we can go do what we're called to do.
Awesome. I like the unstuck, because I feel that very much so. So I appreciate in your bio when you were talking about frustrated, overwhelmed. I think those are very poignant adjectives for us, unfortunately, sometimes. What are ways that people listening can stay in contact with you? Because we could talk to you all day, but I know you have a whole world to save. So what are ways that we can stay in contact with you when you're not on the podcast? You have a website,
a whole world to
social
save.
media. I know.
Oh, that's God's job. I just take the next one he puts in front of me.
We like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of takes the weight of the world off of me and puts it on someone else, because on him, because he knows the big picture. But, I'm all over. BeckySampson.com is my website. And it's, to me, I love growing up at a summer camp. My dad always taught me that you leave places better than you find them.
Yeah.
And I do the very best I can and am I perfect? No. I mean, I make mistakes all the time, but I really have taken that up a notch. My motto in life is leave people better than I found them. And the service that I do, I've gotten to a point in my life where the service I do is not for me. It really is to serve God and to be an instrument in his hands, because ultimately that's why we're here. So I love it. I love what I do. I love the lessons I learn along the way, even when I fall flat on my face. Yeah. I've learned to be tenacious and get back up, brush it off, and keep going. Maybe try something new, try something new, and be very tenacious. Tenacious is such a great word. Resilience. So
just pick one, make it your motto. I appreciate that you have mottos and things that lead you along. Today we talked about so many good things. You dropped so many gems about finding your superpower and not being afraid to move, because God has a hard time directing
He's got your back,
facing the ground. Yeah.
God's got your back. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. And that's nice to know. That's really to keep us moving forward. I want to just say thank you so much. Like, you have already contributed so much to this school and to the student body, and you just keep doing that. So I appreciate that. It's inspiring to listen to you, because I want to do the same thing. Here's her website popping up on the screen here. You guys can follow that and continue to reach out to her. I want to say a big mahalo to Auntie Becky for helping us today. You are seriously so awesome. So thank you for taking time to share with us.
Well, thanks for having the courage for me to be your first guest. You did awesome.
I know you are the one. I don't believe that, but I had fun. You make it really easy.
Well, and like I said, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So I guess you did it right. So
hey, I learned from the best.
Yeah, you're awesome. Sure. Well, so thank you guys. Thank you everybody for having me on the show.
Thank you.
Have a great time.
Okay, guys, that was really, really awesome. Before we end, I just want to give up some announcements. So here in the Lorenzo Snow building on the downstairs area is our career studio. All of our career services and all the resources we have here are available free of charge. So you guys come visit us. We're open from 8 to 5 every day. So make sure you come see us here. Also, next month we have a career fair. It's going to be on October 14th. So there's going to be more details to come for that, but there's going to be a huge and amazing career fair hosted by our department also. So get excited about that and stay tuned for more details. Again, to connect with more mentoring opportunities, join the Ohana Network. So it's www.ohananetwork or ohana.byuh.edu. And so all of these links will be posted and you guys can follow them too. Next week, Monday at 1 o'clock, as always, we have Uncle Victor and Auntie Monica. Hopefully that's how you pronounce her name. Sorry. The Kafusis. They teach social work here at BYUH, and they're going to be talking a little bit about what they do and how you can get involved with them and what some of the projects that they're working on. So we're really excited for that. Make sure you guys tune in next Monday at 1. Thanks so much for letting me be a host today. A little bit fun, a little bit scary, but a little bit fun. And so hopefully you guys will continue to listen. We're really excited for next week. And you guys have a great rest of your day.